Hey guys, Rodney Miller with Hard Money Partner here. Today I'm interviewing Carl Suverkrop. Carl's a good friend of mine, business partner. We've worked together for a couple years now in the multifamily space. Carl's from uh, Carl's from South Africa, lives here in the United States now in the Dallas-Fort Worth area, and was actively involved in real estate investing. Um, Went from duplexes, single-family homes to multifamily over the last couple of years, and we're going to talk to Carl a little bit about his journey over to the United States in business. His journey into entrepreneurship at a young age, and then transitioning into real estate. Welcome, Carl.
Great. Thank you very much, Rodney.
Thanks for coming on, man. Carl's kind of the hesitant interviewee. He's not big on being interviewed, so I had to talk him
Yeah.
into this.
Yeah, I'll sit in the back seat, but I'll wing it.
You can wing it, man. You're full of good information. So, tell us a little bit about yourself before real estate and before you came over to America. Just give us kind of a quick rundown on
Yeah, thank you. So, yeah, originally from South Africa, formerly immigrated here in 2015 to DFW. I'd been coming back and forth since 2012. In South Africa, with a partner, had a electronic security company. We did access control, biometrics, CCTV cameras, all those security measures that are needed over there and anywhere. Focused on big commercial and industrial applications. So worked in a couple mines across sub-Saharan Africa, lived in Madagascar for a year, and then also worked with a lot of REITs in South Africa, looking after their big regional shopping malls and their technology in there. And that's kind of where, when I started engaging with the REITs, learning more about property and just, how their business model worked, kind of started piquing my interest into real estate. And then when I came across in 2012 was actually when I met my now wife, and she was in the apartment industry. And when I used to visit, she used to be saving her vacation time to come and visit me because we alternated trips. So I would go spend time with her in her luxury Class A apartments in downtown Dallas. And the more time I sort of spent on the properties, the more I kind of understood the business of multifamily. And back in South Africa, my primary focus was recurring revenue contracts. We enjoyed installations, but we wanted to sell once and continue to receive monthly revenue. That was my business model over there. And then looking at the multifamily, it kind of translated pretty well, is that you lease an apartment once, sell an apartment once, and you've got revenue, or should have revenue for the next 12 months when you've got your resident in there. So it kind of married the business to business, what we're working towards in terms of recurring revenue, and real estate. So the more time I spent with her, the more I got familiar with the apartment industry, which doesn't exist in South Africa to the extent it does here, and managed to get my company in South Africa to a point where we could sell in 2015. So we exited that company. I moved over here. Obviously not really knowing anyone in the industry at the level I needed. Started off small, partnered with someone in order to obtain financing because I just arrived here. And we started buying up duplexes in Fort Worth. But very quickly, that was kind of at the end of 2015. By the middle of 2017, we couldn't find anything that made sense anymore. The market moved so quickly that it just didn't exist anymore. So we wanted to scale up, and syndication and multifamily is where I wanted to be. And ended up attending events, and that's where we met Rodney. And
Yes,
yeah, put our minds and resources together and managed to scale up and move forward in multifamily in a big way.
absolutely. And congratulations on Atlanta Terrace. Carl just closed on a 100 unit in Tulsa down the street from our 174 unit. Atlanta Terrace, looks like a really cool deal. We'll talk about that here in a little while, kind of about when you got into it and really started doing your due diligence, all the diamonds you found in that deal.
Yeah, thank
but
you. Yeah, no, that,
but yeah, let me back up a little bit. Why isn't there an apartment business model in South Africa?
I'm unsure. So most developments get sold off kind of condo or townhome style. Um, I didn't go as deep in the weeds as we've done over here, but I think just the living arrangements, just the style of homes and that type of thing is a little different. There are a lot of what I would call blocks of flats, which are really mid to high rises,
Mm-hmm.
um, and a very a handful of those will be owned by single investors or a single ownership group. But the majority of them are sold off condo style, which, as we know, the joy of controlling or owning an apartment community is that you can control and influence the value. You can, control what goes on at the property when you're subject to a bunch of condos and a HOA and all that type of stuff. It's really difficult to control the outside of your walls of the unit. So I'm unsure. Maybe it's something to do with the I don't know, but
That's
yeah,
interesting.
it's unfortunate because there would be a lot of good places.
Yeah, man.
To
Very interesting. So tell me a little about, so you move over here, you meet the girl of your dreams, you move to the United States, you're not a citizen. Was that, and you're going to start, you got to start over. You sold your business. You're over here starting over, right?
Yep.
Was that difficult? I mean, having just to go from
It was
being
very
a big shot business owner to starting from scratch, in a new
yeah,
country.
it was very
You're not a
I've
citizen.
used the terms character building and humbling. So yeah, I when I merged my business with my partner in South Africa, Grant, I was 24 years old. We really did well in our 5 years of business, and yeah, moving, really well connected in our industry, uh, newspaper articles, that type of stuff. Not that, but move over here and literally start from ground zero. Fortunately, I'd opened up a secured credit card on one of my trips in 2012 or 2013, I think. So at least I'd started to build some sort of credit prior to arriving here.
You can own a credit card here without being.
Well, it was secured credit card, so I had to
Okay.
put, it was $500, right?
Okay, gotcha.
But nonetheless, it started my credit history, so that helped. But I arrived here, went through the process. It took me 90 odd days from getting here to just get a in the system, so to speak, for my green card. At which point I got issued a work permit, which was only valid for 1 year. So, because within that year, I would have had a green card decision, either, yes, you can stay or go back. And yeah, it was tough. I couldn't really get any meaningful employment because, no one really wanted to invest and employ someone who, is only here potentially for a year,
Sure.
at least at the level I was looking at, which, it was just kind of where I was at. I was looking for a certain type of position. And so that became very difficult. So that first year, I really spent a lot of time just diving into real estate. and it was actually, I arrived here on the 31st of October in 2015, and we closed on our first property in, I think it was the 30th of December. So I hadn't even been here but 60 days. And I was fortunate enough that I partnered with a friend who, he was actually in Florida, but he fortunately trusted my judgment in Fort Worth, and we did a deal here with a duplex. And the reason being is he's been here 10 odd years. So he's got all W-2, tax returns, all of those nice things that although we bought the property cash, we needed to refi our cash out. We're doing the whole BRRRR strategy. And, coming in as a foreign national and I didn't even have a social security number for the first year. It was nice to have him along and sort of, be able to at least get reasonable debt when we refied.
So for all you to think that real estate's too difficult and the odds are stacked against you. So you literally came to this country waiting for your green card, and within 3 months you owned your first property. You found a money partner and you took down your first property, correct?
Absolutely. Yep. We'd looked at a bunch, but yeah, exactly. It's much as I've always said with you, it's the power of partnering. There's always, like I said, the partner we did that deal with, he was in Florida. The deal, what I presented to him was not available in Florida, and he thought, yeah, I'll invest in it in Fort Worth. So
was this like you put up the money and I'll run the show kind of deal?
No, we were 50-50. So we both actually put up equal share of the money. But then when it came to refinancing out and getting the long-term debt, we're both on the loan. However, it was through his qualification. He basically qualified us for the long-term debt.
Gotcha. Okay. So you kind of leveraged him. You got some money from him. You got his qualification credentials, which you didn't have at the time, and that kind of helped you get these deals. And you guys were 50-50 on these deals.
Yep.
So how many of these deals did you guys take down together?
So we got up to 4 full duplexes. I always say full because just depending where you are in the country, a duplex can be in half. So yeah, we had 8 units, just right around Fort Worth. And they'd grown significantly in value. I think our entry points for at least 3 of them were about $100,000 all in. So that was like right now when we sold them, it was like we sold them 3 years later for like 190. So
this is each.
Yeah, we sold. Yeah, they climbed in value
the whole time.
Sorry, say that again.
How long did you hold
them? From the purchase of the first one, just over 3 years, I believe it was.
Damn, not bad. So did you calculate your annualized returns after you sold them through?
It was. Yeah, so it was tough. Well, not tough, just. We didn't leverage on the acquisition. We only leveraged afterwards on the refi. But we still on the cash invested, which would kind of be we had very low leverage at the end of the day. We're probably only 60% or less than 60% leveraged across the portfolio.
Gotcha.
Probably actually closer to 50%. Sorry, we're about 50% leveraged. And we still did a more than 30% annualized return. So
wow, can you imagine what it would have been if you would have done 80%, financing or whatever? But how does that work out? Because then you'd be cash flowing less. So I mean, that all kind of goes to the end average returns. You're probably cash flowing more, right?
Oh yeah, we were cash flowing, a good amount every month because the debt was low. So yeah, no, it was, I think while we were in it, we were cash flowing probably, mid-teens once we had refied, mid-teens.
Wow. So yeah, for folks, I get my biggest obstacle I see from people wanting to get into real estate is I don't have any money. I don't have any money. I don't have any credit, and I don't have this. Find a money partner. Find a money partner. That's your fastest, or go hard money. I mean, we finance. You have to put some of your money, skin in the game. You got to have some of your own money. So if you don't have any money at all, you might want to start saving, or go find somebody that'll put the money up, and you'll split it with them 50-50 or whatever you guys agree on. But that's a good way to dip your toe in the water and get in the business.
Yeah, I absolutely agree with you, Rodney. And it's funny, when I first got here as well, just everything I've ever done is about partnering, and you really your reality may be completely different to someone else's. And, realistically, there are people who need to invest their money. They're sitting with it in a checking account and don't know what to do with it. And when you starting out, you might think, well, asking to partner with, I don't have anything to contribute or whatnot, but it's really problem solving. It's someone may not have the time, they may not have the energy, they may not have the know-how. You've got all of that, and perhaps you don't have the funds, and they've got the funds, and really it's problem solving, and being able to provide value to someone, which may not necessarily be a dollar bill value. It may just be the energy and the time that
Sure.
problem.
Sure. So you got in the game, you had a partner, you got those duplexes up and running, the cash flowing. Did you at some point get to the point to where you felt like you didn't need a partner, a money partner, or, was that kind of like, because, when you're splitting things 50-50, you start looking at things differently over time.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm doing all the work and I'm putting up half the money.
Yeah.
I don't know, man. And I'm splitting 50-50. I don't want to put you on the spot,
but yes and no. I always kind of look at things, and I wouldn't be where I am without the support of other people. So I feel like I'm not too quick typically to sever from that. But yeah, I did start looking at ways of how I could maximize my return, because there was just different realities, right? My reality of what I was focused on and what I was doing,
sure,
needed to really grow and provide for me and my family, while other people are exploring other opportunities. I needed to make sure that we're all fairly compensated for everything we've committed to. So yeah, it did open up to looking at more and different opportunities, and that's where the multifamily kind of played up, and kind of people to help me level up to the next next step of just bigger deals, more dollars at the end
sure,
of the day,
sure.
that would get me to where we need to be.
So that kind of got you, you kind of got, that was kind of multifamily. I started off single family, but you kind of started in the multifamily with duplexes, kind of the same thing. And you saw the value add, you went through the value add process, and you came out really well with a 30% annualized return, and you were off to the races. So at what point did you decide to go bigger? Dana, your wife, manages these Class A large assets, in Dallas Fort Worth Metro. So you saw the big Class A properties and Class Bs and the things that she manages. At what point did you decide, and how did you decide to transition from a duplex to something bigger, 150, 100,
Well, that was always the plan, and even the partner that on the duplexes, I'd always said my goal when I got here was I wanted to build a REIT, Like, I didn't even know what I was saying, but I wanted to go. That has always been like the ultimate sort of end goal, and I didn't know what it looked like or how it happened, but that's just what I wanted to do. And we started looking at these, there was a 9 unit that we missed out on, and there was a 16 unit that was an auction, and
This
we
is you
started
and
looking
your
at these.
partner from the duplex?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. And we just, we couldn't compete. We were just missing things. We're still trying to, do a price per square foot, and we knew what cap rates were, but our expectation of, we got to buy things at a 12 cap because that's what our duplex are doing. Just it was never going to happen, and through Bigger Pockets, which I actually joined in 2012, I think it was. So I'd been in there for a long time. I knew syndication was my path forward, but again, my network was it pretty much didn't exist. So I knew at that point I needed to grow my network to be able to syndicate and find people to pull me through. And it was interesting enough, through all these, as we were exploring this 9 units and 16 unit, I came across non-recourse debt, because that became a hurdle for us, was debt to income. When you're buying all these residential properties, debt to income, I couldn't get I think it was something at like Nebraska Furniture Mart, like they pulled my credit to do something. How much do you earn? And you got like $450,000, or how much is your W-2? And you got $450,000 in mortgage debt. Like, that's not going to work.
You said, that's good debt. Come on.
Exactly. I was like, yeah, well, I've got, the income, the real estate income, and they wouldn't count that. And anyways, it got to a point where I was trying to explore debt options, and I came across non-recourse debt. So I thought, this is fantastic, solves all the debt to income. It's all asset based. Anyway, so I called a broker and said, this non-recourse debt you've got, I'd love to get some, because we had a sizable, a few $100,000 that would have been enough for the down payment. And I realized the $1 million in debt was where that non-recourse kind of came into play. So we thought, yeah, we'd have enough for a down payment. So now we're looking at, bigger 32 unit properties and whatnot. And so I called the broker and mortgage broker and said, we've got money for a down payment. Can I get $1 million of this non-recourse debt? And he he didn't laugh too hard, which was nice. And he said, yeah, you need to get involved a bit more and learn a little bit more about how all this stuff works, and perhaps partner with someone who can show you, how commercial real estate operates. And again, that's
run off, little boy. Come back when you're ready.
Pretty much. And I remember he actually sent me an email with links of seminars to attend, and I was so hard-headed that I just dismissed it and was like, he doesn't know what he's talking about. So I ignored his suggestions for about 9 months, and eventually I saw it come through, and I was like, well, let me go see what he was talking about. And once I attended, one of those events and found people that were syndicating deals, I was so, again, mad with myself. I was like, how'd you let your ego get in the way? And I'm now 9 months behind where I should be. So
whole saying, your ego is not your amigo.
There we go. Yeah.
But yeah. So you went to a group of people doing it, and the light bulb went off. You kind of.
Yep. It just, all the it's really, it can be a simple business, on paper. But as we know, actually operating these businesses really takes a lot. There's a lot of involvement, even using a third-party management company and on-site staff. You've really got to be driving the business, simple things like, cash flow, managing the cash in the business. When you're managing a a 100-unit property that's got, maybe collecting $80,000 a month in rent, and for instance, you've got a mortgage payment of $25,000. Those are some pretty big numbers. They get pretty scary pretty quickly, if you're not in the right situation, right? And now, especially again, when you're syndicating and you're bringing other people in, you can't just, on a 29th of the month, phone everyone and say, hey, we're going to be a little short on the mortgage payment this month. Would you, would you mind kicking in a bit? We're good. that you can't do that.
Yeah, it takes a whole other,
relatively.
you syndicate, it takes a whole other level of fiduciary responsibility to other people to take care of those folks. And these are apartment businesses. They're not apartment buildings. These are businesses, big businesses with, when things can go wrong in a big kind of way. So, yeah. So explain, let's talk for a minute about single family and multifamily, kind of learning curve you have to go through to kind of wrap your brain around, because it's just two different animals. You'd think they were they're kind of similar, but they're really not. I mean, and you said they're more complex in the way you run them, but geez, they're more complex in the way you evaluate a deal, the way you find deals, the way you talk to brokers, the way you raise the way you get your capital and your lending and this is so different than going out and going to your local bank and buying a single family home. It's just night and day. So what are some of the bigger differences that you see between, what do you have to transition mentally from single family mindset or the small duplex, fourplex to these larger deals?
I think the biggest shift is trying to buy something 70 cents on the dollar is just not going to happen. If you do find it at 70 cents on the dollar, run the other way because it's probably in all sorts of disrepair and just a troubled property, which is going to be cash flow negative. On a single family, if it takes you, I don't know, 45, 60 days to turn it around and get a renter in there, that holding cost is, you put in your project and you're fine. With multifamily, if you find something that's kind of less than 80% occupied, you're most probably going to be putting in money every month to support that property, be it the debt or just the operations, because you've got, and again, I'm talking typically more than 100 units, just because that's what we look at. So,
Sure.
a property of 100 units or more. If you're less than 80% occupancy, it's highly likely that you're going to be putting in money every month to support it, which then, if you've taken on a beast of a property that, you want to perform the BRRRR strategy, it's tough because you can't just get people out. If you've got 100 residents, chances are not all the leases are ending at the same time. So you've got to kind of work through it in stages, and how do you bring in your new units and new clientele and new residents who you want to fill the property with, perhaps a more qualified resident, when you've still got, inherited historic residents who may not be up to the change.
Sure.
So it's definitely, there's some more components to think about. I think like I say, single family, you can kind of get in there, tear it up, and you can absolutely take control of that property very quickly and get it to where you want it to be. Multifamily definitely takes a lot longer to turn it around and work through issues, just because there is so much more to go on.
Sure. And when you're crafting your offer for these properties, you're crafting your offer with all these moving parts in mind. I mean, you're having to take into account your debt, how you're going to improve the property, how much money you're going to put into it, over what amount of time, what's it going to look like, what your numbers are like year 1, year 2, year 3, year 4, when you hit break even or turnaround time. there's so many factors involved, and you're competing against 10 other people that are doing the same thing. And
Mm-hmm.
so um, it's very competitive right now, but there's so many more aspects to how you turn these things around, but it starts with how you evaluate these deals and make a solid offer. And if you're trying to come in at a 12 cap on these deals, you're never going to get a deal. I still see, people on Facebook, I need a 50 unit. These are from the single family community. I'm looking for a 50 unit property, 12 cap. Let me know if you find one. Like, it ain't gonna happen, dude. Ain't
Nope.
gonna happen.
Nope.
So, with that in mind, talk about our strategy. Stabilized properties, 5, 6
Yes.
cap. Why those work? How you make those work?
Yeah. So
And there's just so much more to do.
yeah. So, and just one other thing to recap, it's just the length of time it takes to get one of these deals closed. That's a big difference from single family, where you've got your cash offer closing in 3 days. Talk about 3 months when you're in the multifamily space, from I guess the start. But sorry, what was that last question again?
I forgot.
Oh, our strategy. Yeah. So,
How we invest and what we like and what.
Yeah, we want properties that are not, distressed occupancy. As I mentioned, you can get the non-recourse debt, which is typically long-term agency debt, being Freddie Mac and Fannie Mae. And they've got certain criteria for a property to qualify for that, which is typically 90% or better occupancy for the last 90 days before you close on the property. So we want a property that's got that good occupancy, because that should mean that it's cash flowing well, and then also that there's no super deferred maintenance, because it can really get big on you very, very quickly. These apartments are, I think one of ours is more than 150,000 square feet, with just massive gabled roofs, and it's just a lot of real estate. It is a lot of building to maintain. So we want most deferred maintenance handled, so that we remove that variable. We want to be able to get into the long-term debt that allows us to allows the property to provide cash flow from year one. We don't like too much speculation on where we're going to take the property and where we're going to exit. We want to see that, we look to do a 3 to 5 year hold, and at the exit, we obviously have a price which we anticipate selling the property for. We want to see that that price is of where we want to exit is achievable. If it hasn't been achieved already, is very close to being achieved. Ideal is that it has been achieved already. And
explain that a little bit. I mean, through comps in the area. I mean,
through sales comps in the area, also refinance, detail, all of that stuff kind of becomes a lot more through industry, data sources that information's available. So we can see, such and such property down the road refied, and this was their value. So we can at least sort of anticipate that we're not too far. We're not going to be asking 90,000 a unit at exits, and the currently properties are appraising at 70,000 a unit. That would be
sure.
pretty far off the mark, assuming we'd get there. So we like to stay with an exit that's kind of been achieved already. And then over that 3 to 5 year period, we enjoy some good cash flow, and the total return that we've received over the 3 to 5 years, 50% of that return we try to target to have come through cash flow, because obviously cash flow is more probably more controllable and more immediate than the appreciation at the exit. So we want to make sure we've got cash flow coming in, so at least our return is building.
Yeah. So let's just talk about your latest deal, Atlanta Terrace. You and Mike took down through our Trident company. Just closed that, what, 2 weeks ago?
Last Monday. Yeah, last Monday.
Well,
30th of.
let's
Yeah.
talk about Atlanta Terrace and kind of what made that thing stand out for you, other than it was down the street from our other property. But kind of what made that attractive to you. And then you talk about what you found after you got it under contract and how it even got
Yeah.
But let's just let's go through the details of Atlanta Terrace and why this is such a good deal for the general partnership, as well as the passive group of passive investors that you brought into the deal.
Yeah. So it's 102 units built in 1970. Initially, we only really got excited. Well, I only got excited about it because it's a mile down the street from our existing assets. So we can leverage resource, whether it's physical on-site.
Tulsa, Oklahoma, by the way. Tulsa, Oklahoma. Go ahead.
Yes. Whether it's on-site resource, whether it's marketing efforts, we're just able to leverage our footprint there better. And I guess why we liked it is it wasn't a widely marketed deal. It was just with a local broker who knew the owner, who wasn't really wanting to sell, but I think through some pressures from his partnership, was entertaining an offer. And we looked at it and looked at the rents, and then compared those with the rents we're getting a mile down the street, and there was just a huge delta between what we were getting and where this property was at. And at that point in time, the property was very close to 100% full, which again, in multifamily, when you're 100% occupied, it lets you know that you're too cheap. In single family, when you're 100% occupied, that's all you want.
Sure.
So yeah, he was really well occupied. So we knew the rents had room to go. And it was just a very unique transaction. The seller self-managed, and we actually toured, Rodney. We toured one of his properties in Sapulpa in 2019, and that was also the same. Rents were a couple $100 below what was going on in Sapulpa.
That's the one I toured with you guys.
Yeah.
I remember that.
So I just, following the owner, kind of knew that was his modus operandi of being a little under market and keeping the place full. And he self-manages, so it was unique in that he didn't want us to tour the property ahead of going under contract, because he didn't want his staff to get all concerned and jump ship, and now he's stuck with no one to manage the property.
Sure.
So we managed to do a couple drive-throughs very discreetly and kind of very, very high level. We didn't even get out the car. Take a look at the property.
Clean property. I mean, compared to some other crap we've looked at, it was pretty well maintained, pretty clean. You could tell that it was maintained well. The chances of you getting those units and they're just totally crap were fairly low, I would think, based on how you took care of the outside, right?
Exactly. Yes, there was some of those exact assumptions. A lot of stalking of the online profiles. The Facebook page of the property, the Google reviews, the Google pictures. There's some great reviews about the manager, so that was good for us as well. So we made some sort of assumptions of what we'd be walking into, and ultimately put an offer together that kind of hit, left us some room just in case it was not as expected, and kind of went from there. And this was a long process. I think from the initial, I've still dated my initial underwriting. was March, and we closed it on the last day of November. So that's a good 9 months of looking at this deal. And so we went under contract eventually. We kind of, how the process works with the commercial is you submit a letter of intent, which is kind of highlights or high level of how you want to offer, how you want your due diligence, what you want from the seller. It's kind of a high level intent of how you would like to purchase the property.
And that letter of intent set forth the terms of the contract. You want it to be very close to what your contract's going to look like, correct?
Correct, yes. So we had that LOI kind of accepted, but then the PSA, which is that purchase sales agreement, that in itself, I think, took maybe another 3 weeks to a month to finally line out, because there's some finer details that we struggled to get a meeting of minds, but eventually we did, and kudos to the broker for making sure we got there. So we eventually, get the PSA executed, and we can now formally and officially get on site and start touring this property. And it was better than expected. We've toured a lot of properties. We've been out in Little Rock, Arkansas last summer, and we walked 220 units, and the last 20 units were just, a disaster. And we've just seen a lot of bad properties over the last 2 years.
We've seen a lot of misrepresentations that weren't exposed until we got the thing under contract and went and did our due diligence. And
Exactly, which is super frustrating, because you should just represent what you got, which I want to feel in this case, they because there wasn't a full marketing effort, the broker really gave us the best sort of insight he could, which was I would say limited. He was not wearing the rosy glasses for a change. He was wearing pretty dull glasses, because when we got on there, the units were far better than expected. And there was a building which we'd been obviously driving past, which we had just assumed it would be residential units. And anyways, when we got on property, it turned out that the seller had been headquartering his management company out of this building. It's a 3,500 square foot building, which he had racking and shelving and all sorts of tools and appliances, pretty much his like I say, his HQ for operating 1,000 or 1,500 units through Tulsa. That's where he stored everything. So immediately we said, kind of, what's all this? And he's like, oh, don't worry, this is stuff for my management company. We'll have it emptied out by the time you close. So Mike and I kind of looked at each other and said, well, what are we going to do in here? And obviously the seller walked off, and we kind of looked at this and said, we don't need all the space. We don't, do we build a fitness center? And we thought, well, we've actually kind of got room for that in the leasing office if we want to remodel that. Do we, COVID, we're middle of COVID, so do we build a co-working space? And we went through all these things, and we thought, well, these are C-class apartments, although it's in a really nice area. We didn't feel that was a good use of the space, so we thought, well, what if we just build out more residential units? And all of a sudden, we kind of looked at it, and we actually got an architect involved, and we're going to be able to build out 4 residential units. So we're going to take the 102 units to 106 units. And the joy of commercial is these properties are evaluated on a cap rate, which is affected by your net operating income, meaning your bottom line. We will be able to build these units without incurring too much ongoing cost. We'll obviously have the cost of building them out, but then ongoing, it's not going to cost the property very much more to operate these 4 units. So the addition to expenses will be very low. but we'll have now basically 4 more leasable units and 4 more incomes, which at this point we're projecting about $30,000 a year in income, which at a cap rate, we could be looking at somewhere between $400,000 and $500,000 in value for. I think ultimately it's going to cost us about 120 to 140 to build it out. We're just fine tuning some of the finish outs, but we should be able to build this out for about let's say $140,000, and we'll have $30,000 a year in cash flow. So that alone is a great ROI. But then when we come to sell the property, we will have added $400,000 to $500,000 in value.
And so your value add strategy, you're going to add 4 units, you're going to raise rents, and
Yep.
there's not a whole lot of capex on this project, right? It's not like you're going to sink a lot of money in this project to do that, right? I think you're going to address the mansard roof. It's kind of ugly, but that's a neat project, not a major deal. And then are there any cost cutting measures you're going to take? Low flow toilets, low flow shower heads, all that to reduce the expenses to increase your NOI?
So he's implemented most of that already.
Okay.
So that is done, but yep, we're definitely going to operate the property more efficiently. I feel like his profit center was his management company, in my opinion. So the bills that arrived at the property were a little heavy. So we're going to operate it, back in line with market expenses. We're going to start pushing the rents. The units themselves are very clean and good, but just very dated. Most of the units were single beige, from trim to even some of the ceilings were beige, which was just, too much. So we're going to go in with two-tone paint, white ceilings, white trim, the trendy gray that's around nowadays. We're going to get that on the walls and see how far we can go with doing minimal work, and at least initially, just to see, because we should be able to realize a significant bump with a very nominal investment into the units. And then some cosmetic stuff. So that mansard roof, we want to update the leasing office, give it more of a modern feeling, and then just addressing some of the much like that mansard roof, some deferred stuff in the parking lot. We're gonna get an overlay all the way through, so that'll create a nice first impression as well, and then building out the units. So all in, we are. It's another $600,000 project by the time we've sunk all the costs into it. But
so you have a $600,000
we're pretty confident
that you allowed for $600,000. Okay.
Yes. Yeah. So that's moved significantly from where we started. But that's building out the units, which we came across. So yeah, we feel we should be able to increase that net operating income pretty much 75 to 90% increase within 3 years, just because the costs we're going to be driving down through efficiencies, staffing, advertising, all those types of things that we can manage more efficiently.
Okay.
We should have better costs there, and then the bumps and the additional income from those 4 units will really increase that net operating income.
Nice. So what's your exit strategy? You buy it, you fix it up over a period of 2-3 years, you churn the residents, you raise the rents, you reduce the expenses, you get the NOI where you want it, you get your multiple on the cap rate, and then 3 years comes up. What do? Do you sell it? Do you refinance it? Are there prepayment penalties you gotta think about? Kind of what's your end game?
Yeah. So at this point, our strategy is to sell. We've structured our debt. A very good thing that you mentioned, prepayment penalties, which I guess don't typically exist in single family, where because we get this great long-term there's typically a prepayment penalty. We've structured our debt so that after 2 years, we'll have zero prepayment penalty, and be able to get out of it, whether it be through sale or through refinance. At this point in time, it will be a sale in 3 to 5 years, but we don't know what the market's going to look like. So we kind of keeping our options open. If that's not the best option at that point in time, we've because of the no prepay, we've got options, and we believe we should be able to increase the property's value by somewhere between 30 to 35%, during that period. So if we manage to appreciate the property that well, then again, we'll have options on what we do at that point.
Nice. Just to get this set up with our property management company, Winfield, who's awesome. And we'll have I'm going to call you back on. We're going to do a few of these. I'm going to talk to you. We can just talk about the nightmare property management issues we had to work through.
Don't say it.
Huh? Man,
don't say it.
It can be a nightmare if you get the wrong company. We've been through it. So it wasn't all shits and giggles in this, in this learning process.
Yeah.
We took our licks on a few things, and one of them was bad property management. That will run you out of business if you're not careful.
Absolutely. As much as they tell you they've got a vested interest, they do not.
Absolutely. So that's key. Man, tell me. So are you still looking at deals? Are you got this thing set to where you can start? So just you alone. I mean, part of the partnership and everything, but you've got. So you went the first deal, Pryor, Oklahoma, Prairie Village.
Yeah.
Out of parks of 1220 100 units. First deal we went into together. Then Stratford Brownstone, 174 units, 2 properties across the freeway in Tulsa. That was a pretty big deal. Big heavy lift. It's quite the deal. And then now Atlantic Terrace. That's 3 deals in what? 2 years?
Yeah. So March will be exactly 2 years. So 20 months. 4 properties, three actual, syndications, because the 2 were together. So, it's climbing quickly. This one we're definitely feeling more comfortable in terms of the takeover was definitely a lot better. I want to attribute it mostly to the management company and the due diligence and efforts they put in. The 3 weeks or 4 weeks prior to us closing, they were set up and ready to go. Websites online. It was interesting. We try to get the close to happen somewhere around the 24th of the month, just so that we had time for the 100-odd residents to get their rent checks figured out. And just because that was 2 days before Thanksgiving, and the lender wasn't comfortable that they could fund on the Tuesday, which then rolled to the Wednesday, and then title was kind of worried about banks closing at midday Wednesday before Thanksgiving. So it became a mountain out of a molehill pretty quickly. So we just pushed closing to the 30th of the month, which was what we're trying to avoid, because now you've got these residents trying to pay their rent, and they all kind of chance their arm a little bit when a transition happens of I've paid my rent, or went to this company and that company. But Winfield were just set up and on it. They were on site on the 30th, got all their notices out, and they transitioned all the rents and payment protocols pretty well. So.
But the other thing is, it went really smoothly for you guys. From what I understand, is your capital raise went extremely fast, extremely smooth. So I remember our first deal, Prairie Village and Pryor. Your first deal, you're trying to raise. What do you raise? 1.2 million or something?
1.4, yeah.
1.4 million, and that was it's kind of a grind. We're just starting out. We didn't have any experience, and so we were really working hard to. We invested passively in other deals, But we were working really hard to raise the capital for that. It seemed like it took forever, but I probably didn't take that long. Then
Yeah.
the Strapper Brownstone a little easier, and I heard this one from you. You told me this one was very easy to raise. Tell us about the raise.
Yeah, this was, I actually had a little chuckle. The amount of people apologizing to me for not sending me their six-figure check like on time. Like they said they'll do it on Monday and they did it on Tuesday and apologized profusely for why they were so sorry for, being a day late with their check, and please can they still be in the deal. It was very unique, having people apologizing for making payments into the investment. But yeah, we typically host a webinar and kind of walk everyone through the deal, and have a little pitch deck of the business plan and projections. And I think we did that on a Thursday, and by the Monday morning, we'd kind of send a follow up with a review, a link to watch the recording, and some more details. And by Monday morning, we pretty much had people had called in and hadn't completed paperwork yet, but we had enough verbal commitments that the deal was done. And then it was just kind of herding the cats, and that's where the apologies came from, people saying, "Oh, I'm so sorry, I haven't sent you the money yet." It's like, well, that's okay. And then we had to, someone, unfortunately, one of our investors in another project, he had six figures he wanted to invest, and I had to decline him. We were full, and it's just interesting how he realistically wasn't even on the radar initially to be someone who we would have had investing in this deal, and he wanted to invest. And an interesting stat, Rodney, I just had a look, is it looks like just looking through our portal that within our deals, we've got more than we're close to 60% of our investors reinvest with us. So 60% of our
It's a
investors,
cascade effect. I mean, you take care of people when you do what you say you're going to do. It's going to grow. They're going to tell their friends about you, and they're going to want more money in your deals, right? I mean,
you
see that from other investors. It seems hard at the beginning. You got to get lift. You got to perform. You got to get that initial capital and perform well. And then once people see that you're the real deal, then I think it gets easier, because we see these people that start off struggling to raise $1 million, and then next thing you know, they're raising 10 million. You're like, what?
Yeah.
But that's just natural progression.
And my math is wrong. Sorry. It's 80%. 80% of our investors are invested in 2 deals or more. We got some investors who invested in all the deals. So
that's amazing.
that was pretty interesting. I looked at it yesterday and thought, man, that's pretty good going.
That's amazing. And now we're in the middle of COVID. How's that affected things? I see our collections and everything on our other 2 properties, but what do you see with COVID? And so far, we're surviving the storm. We're being conservative, but rents, people still got to rent, right? I mean, we don't have a ton of people that can't pay their rent. We had a couple at Strapper Brownstone that we're having to work with, but
it's certainly been interesting, and touch wood and don't want to speak too soon, but we're managing to navigate it. It's definitely not just business as usual. It is taking some finesse on how to deal with the situation. Interestingly enough, this eviction moratorium that's going around got everyone quite panicked. And realistically, on all bills paid properties like we have, even if the resident isn't paying, we're still footing the bill for their utilities. So we really want them out. And with this eviction moratorium, the only thing it stops is we can't get people out who are not paying, right? But we can still evict people for lease violations. We can still non-renew residents. So, fortunately, most of the residents who I would say abusing or, not making payment are the same residents who have lease violations. So, if we can't get them out one way, we can get them out the other. Or we non-renew them, which great state of Oklahoma and Texas as well, we issue these. We're not obligated to renew leases, so when their lease comes due, we just non-renew them and get them out. So
Yeah.
But again, it's not as straightforward as business as usual, but yeah, we're able to navigate this to some degree, and
Gotcha.
there's a lot of support structures in Tulsa at the moment. I keep saying the next 90 days, the next 90 days, the next 90 days. So, from here, the next 90 days, putting us through sort of as we get into February next year. It will be interesting to see what the new mandates are and what the economy looks like. So we're definitely we're cautiously optimistic of how it's played out, but we don't want to make any crazy assumptions of it just bouncing back.
Sure.
We're kind of maintaining status quo.
Sure. So you guys know I'm located here in Oklahoma City, and Carl and I started the multifamily meetup last year. And I think we got some investors out of that, didn't we? We had a couple of people invest in our deal in Atlanta Terrace, right? One, was there more than one, maybe a couple?
Yeah, I'll have to go back and check, but no, there's definitely, even if they have not invested, we've had a lot of continued interest and just education.
Sure.
We love sharing what we do, and that's why you're hosting your podcast, is just providing insights and sharing experiences with others. So no,
at some point we need to start that back
valuable.
up. So we stopped the multifamily meetups. We were getting really good response here in Oklahoma City, but COVID hit, and so we just didn't feel responsible to keep having people meet in one indoor space. But at some point we need to open that back up, because people were enjoying it, and we were educating, and it was fun to do. It'd be cool to get back and do that again. And if you are a real estate investor, I know this is going out to single family home people, multifamily, but a lot of single family folks. If you are thinking about getting into multifamily, the best way to get into it is to number one, join our multifamily meetup group. It's Learn Multifamily OKC. Go sign up for it, and when we start back, we'll let you know when our meetings are. And we had the meetings at Public House. So you could drink beer and learn about multifamily. It's a lot of fun. But the best way to get into multifamily space is to invest in a multifamily deal. So a little plug for Trident Multifamily. If you guys are looking to get into multifamily, you want to learn it, the best way to do it is to give us some of your money and let us place it in one of our multifamily deals. And now you're on the inside. You get to see how all this works. You get to see, how we take down a deal, how we interact with our investors. You can go kick the tires and look at the deal if you want to, but it's a great way to before Carl and I got into it, and our other partner Mike Van, we invested passively in other people's deals. Correct? We're invested in deals all over the country. And so we get the spreadsheets, we get to see how they're running these deals, we get to see how they're managing.
What we do like, what we don't like, what we do like, what we don't like, how we can
stuff we like, we take stuff we don't like, and we kind of operate accordingly. But seriously, if you want to get a multifamily, you need to reach out to us and get involved, man. Our raises. What was your last raise minimum?
35,000.
$35,000 to be in a multifamily deal. And let's talk about Atlanta. What were you guys offering for returns for your past investors?
So we had two schedules of returns, just because at the point of raising the money, we did not have the approval to build out those units yet. So we were raising the money. We're doing everything as if we were going to do that, but we presented to investors as if that may not happen, because at that point in time it was a reality. So that was delivering just under 9% cash on cash yield while we hold the deal. And then at sale, in that 3 to 5 years, so just depending how quickly we could get there, it was a 1.8 multiple, which is about a 16% annualized return over a 5-year period. And if we achieve that in a 3-year period, it's going to be 24% annualized return. Now with us adding the 4 units, which it's been a week and we're busy just getting sign off from the city permitting and all that type of stuff. So it's at this point on time, I would say 95% probable that we'll have those 4 units underway in the next 30 days. With those included, the cash flow yield while we hold the deal will be more than 10% cash on cash, and it will deliver a 2 times equity multiple in 3 to 5 years. So again, if that's a 5-year hold, it's going to be a 20% annualized. If we manage to achieve it in 3 years, it's going to be 25-30% annualized return, which is pretty good for doing zero work. When you're a limited partner, an investor in the deal, you literally have zero obligations. Obviously we welcome you to get involved and engage with us as much as you need, but you really have zero obligations. Residents, property manager, no one even knows who you are, so you're never going to get a phone call. And aside from that, you do get some tax benefits because of these commercial properties. There's depreciation, which is available in single family, just it's not to the magnitude that makes sense with commercials. So typically through the life of these deals, you get some cash, or you get some tax benefits, which is again a whole nother discussion.
That's a whole other seminar, dude. Let's not even go there. It's pretty awesome if you want to offset some of your taxes. But so if you got a solo 401k, an old 401k from another employer, a self-directed IRA, if you have a 401k from another employer, roll it to self-directed IRA, and you can invest in these deals through your IRA or your solo 401k or whatever. We can help you do that and teach you how to do that. It's a great investment. Where else are you to get 20-30% annualized returns? Nowhere. This is hard assets. This is not paper. This is not stock market up and down stuff. This is solid assets being managed by a solid team. So just want to put that out there for you guys that are interested in this type of investment. Even if you want to use it as a stepping stone to be a general partner, it's a great way to get involved. And then someday, if you take down a deal and you want us to partner with you, bring us your deal, and we will partner with you. The 2 most valuable things you can do in multifamily, there's 2 things you can bring to the table: find the deal, because they're hard to find, or help raise capital. Those 2 deals are big. So boots on the ground, if you're in an area where there's a good deal and you can be boots on the ground. But I think with the new laws, if you're going to be a general partner, you got to be actively involved, right? I mean, you can't just be raising money. You got to be actively involved and help us out. So just clarify that.
Yeah.
These deals are all regulated by the SEC, so you got to be really careful how you raise capital and what the general partnership members participate in. So we're really cognizant of that. So I think we're good, man. This is a great interview, dude. I'm gonna bring you back on, maybe get you and Mike together, and we got so many topics we could discuss in this, man. There, bad property managers, the tax benefits in terms of accelerated depreciation, sped up depreciation schedules, raising capital, all that stuff. We're really interesting topics that a lot of folks that want to transition from single family I think would find very interesting, because it's not rocket science, but it is something you got to learn, right?
Absolutely. And just let me know when, and we can get it on the calendar.
Absolutely. See, it wasn't that painful, was it?
Nah.
Tell people how they can get a hold of you and give them the Trident information and
so tridentmultifamily.com is our website. You can see most about us up there. LinkedIn. I am terrible on social media, so I'm on Facebook, but rather hit me up on LinkedIn or Carl Carl at tridentmultifamily.com. Probably the best way to reach out. Let's build a relationship. As Rodney said, we everything we do is regulated with the SEC, being the Securities and Exchange Commission. So we do need pre-existing relationships, and ultimately, if everything comes down to relationships and partnering. So let's start the relationships, and who knows which way it may go in terms of you investing with us investing with you. There's various ways, but getting out of obscurity and getting to know each other is the way these things come together.
Yep. And Carl and I are in Tulsa all the time. So if you're one of our Tulsa watchers, please, reach out to us through Trident Multifamily. And when we're in Tulsa, we'll buy you a cup of coffee, buy you lunch. And if you want to see one of our assets there, we'll give you a short little tour, man, show you one of our assets. And go to Learn Multifamily Oklahoma City if you want to sign up for our multifamily group, our multifamily meetup. We'll be starting those back when things lighten up here a little bit in OKC. And that's it, man. Thanks, Carl, for coming on. We appreciate it, and we look forward to talking to you again soon, man. Thanks, brother.
Thank you very much for having me.